ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. First, our top stories. Liberians react to government performance as President Bouakai delivers a third State of Nation address today.
The president will talk about achievement with the fight against corruption with respect to dismissal, suspension.
Were we to go to the district and you want to identify where there is water, they will not increase to 3 or 4 districts.
Senegalese Prime Minister Sonko begins two-day visit to Morocco as both countries deepen ties. Togo honors fallen soldiers and reaffirms resolve to fight terrorism.
Officers to fail on the field of honor by virtue of the powers vested in us, we hereby posthumously confer upon you the rank of Knights of the Order of the Nation.
And Cote d'Ivoire's new government holds first cabinet meeting. Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
On the news, this is a more edit.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to all of our listeners across the sub-region. Newslink kicks off in Liberia as President Joseph Bouakai delivers his third State of the Nation address this Monday. The constitutionally mandated address held each January is expected to outline the administration's achievements and plans for the current year. A few hours before the speech, citizens are expressing mixed views on the government's performance, with many focusing on pressing national concerns, including healthcare, job creation, security, and economic hardship. WDL's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker gives us the details.
Monday's address provides an opportunity for the president to reassure the nation, outline concrete plans, and demonstrate a commitment to addressing the most pressing needs of the Liberian people. The stakes are high, with citizens closely scrutinizing the government's actions and promises. Archie Pompon and Deconti Pay commended the government's efforts to restore international credibility.
In less than 2 years, you are talking about paying $5,000 with public transport being made available in terms of transportation freaks. The president will talk about achievement with respect to what I just outlined, talks about the issue of Liberian credibility being restored, the fight against corruption with respect to dismissal, suspension, and the untouchable have been touched. I'm looking at the statistics and ties for why a man do not have a job. We have other unskilled jobs. If you go to Kinjo, you have job there. Go to Asiameta in Nima County, there are unskilled jobs there. Come back to Central Monrovia.
However, Abu Kroma and Gardin Masaleh expressed concerns about the government's overall performance, criticizing what they see as a lack of progress in job creation and a failure to fully deliver on its promises.
Were we to go to the district and you want to identify where there is water, they will not increase to 3 or 4 districts. This is the living condition. And let's just forget a few handful of people who are enjoying. That doesn't mean development. You understand? So employing government, they know that it's not well. Come categorically and condemn the U.S. government in foreigners that they are wrong, and what they're doing in Venezuela and other places in Nigeria, they're killing those people is wrong.
In line with Article 58, the State of the Nation address will not only be a review of the past year, but also a crucial opportunity to set the tone for the future and to demonstrate a clear vision for a more prosperous and equitable Liberia. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
In Cote d'Ivoire, the new government, led by Robert Begre Mambe, has held its first cabinet meeting of the weekend. Installed on Friday, the 34-member team is almost identical to the outgoing one. According to the Ivorian executive, the priorities remain ensuring security, national cohesion, and access to basic services. One of the most discussed developments in Abidjan is the creation of the post of Vice Prime Minister, which has been given to Defense Minister Tene Biarima Ouattara. Have a listen to the views of political communication expert Nuruddin Oyole on the formation of a new government.
Yes, many observers agree that government action has for some time been strongly influenced by the personality of Tene Brahima. He previously served as Minister of State and was entrusted with the defense portfolio, a crucial role in the context of the terrorist threat facing the country. He is widely seen as having managed that position with great skill, helping Cote d'Ivoire maintain stability. Today, Tene Brahima's personality is viewed as reassuring. He is regarded as legitimate and credible because people see him at work discreet yet highly effective. By appointing him Vice Prime Minister, many believe the president is signaling the direction he is shaping for the future and for the period after his own leadership. Observers now say a new leader appears to be emerging after Alassane Ouattara.
Political communication expert Nuruddin Oyeole speaking there. Here in Senegal, Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko is on a 2-day visit to Morocco beginning this Monday. Sonko's visit to Rabat is to attend the 15th session of the Joint Commission for Bilateral Cooperation. Dakar and Rabat have committed to further strengthening their strategic ties. Abdullah Hassan tells us more.
This is Ousmane Sonko's first visit to Morocco since his appointment in April 2024. The 48-hour trip by Senegal's head of government is part of the long-standing joint commission linking Morocco and Senegal. Since 1960, the two countries have cooperated in several areas, including the economy, finance, higher education, health, and defense. Over the course of their partnership, Dakar and Rabat have concluded more than 130 agreements with another 30 currently under negotiation. Trade between the two countries has grown steadily in recent years. In 2024, Senegalese exports to Morocco were estimated at 24.7 billion CFA francs, including fish, groundnut paste, cashew nuts, and horticultural products. By contrast, Senegalese imports from Morocco stood at 147 billion CFA francs in 2024, dominated by pasta products, couscous, detergents, and soaps, as well as fruit and vegetables. Morocco is one of Senegal's major African investors, with foreign direct investment in the country estimated at about $136 million in 2019.
Abdullah Sanfalda report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Togo, the president of the council has reiterated his determination to fight terrorism in the north of the country. Fernandinho reaffirmed his commitment to ensuring national security over the weekend. The comments were made during a ceremony honoring soldiers killed in counter-terrorism operations. Augustin Kuli completes the story.
The Togolese national anthem echoed inside the parachutist commando regiment at the General Ami camp in Kara, north of the country. With flags at half-masts and faces marked by emotion, families of fallen soldiers, government officials and military authorities gathered in a solemn atmosphere to honor the memory of troops who died while combating terrorism. The ceremony was presided over by Faure Gnassingbé, president of the Council of Togo, who decorated soldiers who lost their lives in 2025.
Officers, non-commissioned officers and soldiers who fell on the field of honor by virtue of the powers vested in us, we hereby posthumously confer upon you the rank of Knights of the Order of the Nation.
According to military authorities, the tribute ceremony is of major importance. They called for stronger collective resilience and action to counter the terrorist threat. Colonel Amana Kojo, director of the National Gendarmerie, addressed the gathering.
Sons of the nation, you face danger without hesitation, driven by a sense of duty and love for your country. Where others would have retreated, you advanced. Where fear prevailed, you stood firm. Know that your sacrifice will not be in vain. We, your brothers in arms, pledge to continue and to win this battle so that our beloved country, Togo, may remain a haven of peace.
A military parade marked the end of the ceremony. The president of the council praised the determination of the defense and security forces and urged them to continue securing the national territory under Operation Konjuare, which has been in place since 2018.
WDL's Lome correspondent Silvia Vadrago's report and voiced by Augustin Colley. The judicial matters now. We turn to the Gambia, where the country's judiciary has officially opened its 2026 legal year. The formal ceremony held at the High Court complex in Banjul was presided over by the Chief Justice Hassan B. Jallow. It was attended by President Adama Barrow, senior government officials, including members of the bench and bar, diplomats, and other key stakeholders in the justice sector. The annual ceremony provides an opportunity to review progress in the administration of justice and outline priorities for the year ahead. WDL's Banjo correspondent Sangdin Amendi reports.
The ceremony highlighted the central role of the judiciary in upholding the rule of law and strengthening public confidence in the legal system. In his address, President Adama Barrow described the administration of justice as a fundamental pillar of democracy and national progress and reaffirmed his government's commitment to judicial reform, accountability, and the rule of law.
This event annually allows us to reflect on the status of our justice sector and to reaffirm our commitment to the rule of law and effective justice delivery. The administration of justice remains a cornerstone of our democracy.
For his part, the Gambia Chief Justice Hassan B. Jallow detailed the judiciary's 2025 performance.
In the course of the 2025 legal year, courts and respective judicial officers and support staff continued to focus on the core mandate of the judiciary. This task was and is always and will be a formidable one, given the complexity of the judicial process, the challenges posed by the increases in the case workload, the backlog created by the loss or the departure of members of the judiciary, and other challenges of the working environment. That overall, the courts rose to the challenge reasonably well, and I believe acquitted themselves reasonably well.
The event also provides an opportunity to review achievements, confront challenges, and set priorities for the year ahead in the justice sector, while underscoring the judiciary's central role in upholding the rule of law and strengthening public confidence in the legal system. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Santana Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Elsewhere in Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama says the country's economic recovery has moved far quicker than he anticipated when his administration took office. Mahama maintains that he took over the country during a period of severe economic strain. The president, however, says the pace of improvement has drawn attention from international institutions, including the IMF and the World Bank. WDL's Accra correspondent Nadi Detete reports.
At an event in the northern region on Sunday, January 25, President John Dramani Mahama said recent economic gains have exceeded official projections. The president cited declining inflation and a stronger cedi as signs that economic conditions are improving, crediting tighter fiscal controls and economic management.
I've been at this job before. When we came into office, the crisis that faced us was very difficult. In my own imagination, I thought that we'll need about 2 years to begin to see a turnaround. That's what I thought. But Ebenezer, this is how far God has brought us.
He added that Ghana's performance has attracted international attention.
We're all surprised and shocked at the quick turnaround. Anytime I meet the IMF officials and the World Bank officials, they themselves cannot believe, what has happened in Ghana. So Ghana has now become the poster boy, of the IMF and the World Bank. So when they go to other African countries, they say, don't you see Ghana? Look at what Ghana has done. And that's why I say it is only the grace of God. To bring inflation from 23.8% to 5.4% in 1 year, how did we manage that?
He said the improvements reflect fiscal discipline, policy measures, and what he describes as divine intervention. For WADR, Nadi Tete, Accra.
Crossing to the central Sahel region, particularly in Mali, the Ministry of Higher Education has taken a tougher stance over repeated absences in public universities. The ministry is denouncing numerous cases of job abandonment among lecturer researchers. Authorities are calling for strict compliance with the existing legal framework. Francis Boniface has the rest of the story.
In a statement, the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research said it had observed, quote, numerous cases of job abandonment within public university institutions, end of quote. According to the department in charge of higher education, such practices run contrary to the status of lecturer researchers. The ministry has urged those concerned to personally fulfill all obligations linked to the performance of their duties. It added that these absences are disrupting the production and transmission of knowledge, as well as the smooth running of initial and continuing training programs. The ministry also condemned the growing volume of overtime hours in the public universities. In response, authorities have instructed university administrators to enforce the law with the aim of guaranteeing order and discipline within the institutions. Under existing regulations, the status of lecturer researchers provides for several disciplinary sanctions. The measures to be taken will be communicated at a later date. After contacting the Union of Higher Education Lecturers, it said it did not fully understand the ministry's statement. However, the union acknowledged that some lecturers also work in other African countries and even in the West.
Francis Boniface's voice and report is filed in by our Bamako correspondent Ali Cham. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Liberians react to government performance as President Bouakai delivers third State of Nation address today. Senegalese Prime Minister Sonko begins two-day visit to Morocco as both countries deepen ties. Togo honors fallen soldiers and reaffirms resolve to fight terrorism. And former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo retains position as head of opposition PPACI party after party's congress. That's on the other half of the news. And we don't have the press review, a guest interview, and sports. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget, we are streaming live on wadr.org, YouTube, and Facebook. Now, girls in several northern Nigerian states are set to benefit from new funding aimed at tackling child marriage through improved access to education. The Malala Fund, which is making this possible, says the 2-year support will back a coalition of 4 civil society organizations. These organizations are working to implement Nigeria's national strategy to end child marriage across Adamawa, Borno, Kano, Kaduna, and Bauchi states, alongside national-level advocacy efforts. WDL's Abuja correspondent Yechino Sasechu completes the story.
The coalition led by Education as a Vaccine EVA, in partnership with Youth Hub Africa, the Civil Society Action Coalition on Education for All, CASEFA, and One Life Initiative, will focus on keeping girls in school as a way of reducing early marriage. Malala Fund says more than 30% of girls in Nigeria marry before the age of 18, with rates climbing to about 50% in parts of the northeast and northwest, often because girls drop out of school. The organization notes that evidence consistently shows girls who complete their education are far more likely to delay marriage. Based on a modeled investment of $114 million, the fund estimates the initiative could generate economic returns more than 21 times the original amount. Speaking on the program, Malala Fund Nigeria Chief Executive Nabila Aguele said ending child marriage would require sustained action beyond good intentions. She added that the coalition will push states to adopt and activate the national strategy, produce evidence on barriers to girls' education, and promote re-entry policies that allowed married and pregnant girls to return to school. Education as a Vaccine Executive Director Toyin Chikudozie said the partnership is aimed at closing the gaps that continue to push girls out of classrooms. For WADR, Yechini Sasetu in Abuja.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, we remain in Abuja with Yechin Sasechu for the newspaper review.
These are the stories we're tracking in Nigeria. Beginning with Nigerian Tribune, President Tinubu leaves Abuja for Turkey on Monday today. Constitution review, Electoral Act, 2026 budget, top Senate's agenda on resumption. As we approach 2027, Forum of former lawmakers back Tinubu for second term. Diplomats divided over federal government's payment of $9 million to U.S. lobbying firm. In Vanguard, Reps opposition lawmakers question non-implementation of 2025 budget. In economy, Nigeria's money supply grows to 124.4 trillion naira. Moving over to Guardian, National President of the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, Debo Adeniran, thinks Nigeria's democracy excludes many citizens from justice and governance. JAMB, the examination body, warns faith-based institutions against false disclosure, AI abuse. Nigeria Labour Congress backs striking FCTA workers, mobilizes for litigation today. War on drugs as NDLEA intercepts Brazilian lady with 3 billion naira heroin at Abuja airport. And in sports, Angola beats Nigeria in African Handball Championship. That's it on Press Review for today. Back to you in the studio.
Many thanks, Yachin Sasic there in Abuja.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Our guest this afternoon is Evans Nuno, a Ghanaian economist. He provides analysis of President John Mahama's statement of a fast economic recovery. During the weekend, the president stated that the country's economic recovery has moved far quicker than he anticipated when his administration took office. The president also said the pace of improvement has drawn attention from international institutions, including the IMF and the World Bank. However, to unpack the economic indicators supporting the president's claim, economist Evans Juno joins us with his analysis.
Well, I think the data supports his views. If you look at the various projections and estimates in the 2025 budget, and you look at the realities, by the end of that year, you realize that there is variance. For example, the government in the 2025 budget estimated or projected an inflation figure of 11.5%. As at the time that budget was being drafted, inflation was around 23.5%. But at the end of 2025, inflation was dropped to 5.3%, single digit. So if you look at the projection of about 11% and the achievement of 5.3%, there is this huge variance, and that is beyond their anticipation or projection. If you look at GDP growth, I think it was around 3% thereabouts. They ended up, even for the first two quarters, it was about 5%, and overall it's about between 4.5%. So obviously they did better than they projected.
Which specific policies or reforms implemented by the current administration are most likely responsible for the pace of this recovery?
They started off with expenditure management, that is fiscal discipline, fiscal consolidation. So they set a very low budget deficit for themselves, and that is record low because it's below even the statutory figure of 5%. They did, I think, about 2.53%, and that meant that they reduced the size of the government and they did not spend anyhow. So that is fiscal policy. And then in terms of monetary policy, the Bank of Ghana also did well by not engaging in excessive monetary financing. So they were also cautious how much money balances they pump into the system. So I think that they got the fiscal policies right, and those policies were reinforced by prudent monetary policies. And overall, I think that the various people put in various positions in charge of ministries and the likes were also careful with how they executed the year's policies, because I don't think the time frame is enough for them to make any solid structural changes in the economy.
Are there underlying risks or vulnerabilities that may not be immediately visible despite the reported improvements?
Sure. For example, we manage the city largely through the increment in international reserves. We had a lot of international reserves because of what we call the domestic gold purchasing program through an institution we call Gold Board. And so because gold prices globally increased in the year under review, and also through the program, we're able to curb smuggling of gold, and we're also able to retain revenues from gold because Bank of Ghana had to release money to Gold Board to do domestic mobilization of gold. And then we sold that on the international market, which brought in more reserves. However, the World Bank flagged some portions of that program in the sense that there was a loss of about $240 million that went against the account of Bank of Ghana. But then the real risk here is that if we do not work things out, diversify our exports and do other things, that would let the currency gain strength organically. It means that if the quantum of gold we are able to buy domestically reduces, if we're able to fight galamsey is illegal mining. If we're able to fight that drastically, it means that we could easily throw our hands up in despair. So the government would have to try and diversify our exports and also try and influence economic activities in the system so that the economy can organically take care of itself instead of attempting to manage it. Some people call it artificial management.
Well, Evans Nuno is a Ghanaian economist. In sport news, the Confederation of African Football CAF has officially unveiled the timetable for the qualifiers for the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations AFCON, setting the stage for a highly anticipated qualification race across the continent. According to CAF, the qualifying campaign will take place later in 2026, beginning with a preliminary round scheduled for March. This initial phase will involve selected teams, while countries exempted from the preliminary stage, including the Leopards, will advance directly to the group phase of the qualifiers. CAF further announced that the group stage matches of the AFCON 2027 qualifiers will be played across 3 international windows in the latter part of 2026. The tournament will make history as the first AFCON to be staged across 3 countries in East Africa, underscoring CAF's commitment to expanding the tournament's reach and promoting football development across the region. The 2027 AFCON is scheduled to kick off in June 2027, with expectations already building for a vibrant and competitive championship. Meanwhile, Benin is set to make sporting history by participating in the Winter Olympics for the very first time. The National Olympic and Sports Committee has confirmed the presence of the Ekurel or Geopards at the Milan Cortina 2026 edition, breaking a symbolic barrier for the nation and the spotlights of the winter scene. All eyes will be on young skier Nathan Chibozo, the sole representative and flag bearer of this unprecedented expedition. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Chek Jai for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, X, Instagram, WDL News, and Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, the repeat broadcast of our health program, Well Buddy. And at 1 p.m., Imuna Fafana will be here with the news in French and Fushival. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Baga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.